Welcome to the Heart for God podcast. With many years of experience pastoring and helping to start churches, Dr. Jim Townsley has some practical and biblical advice that can be a great help to you and your ministry. On this podcast, Dr. Townsley and other guests with special expertise cover a variety of topics. His goal is to help you lead your church to be a healthy, strong, and balanced ministry, and for your family to be happy, healthy, and living for the Lord.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. I have a friend with me, Richard Harper, an evangelist. But there's a unique aspect of his evangelism. He goes to a lot of mission fields. You know, and in some ways I kind of envy that, you know. I think people are more responsive often in many of the mission fields, and probably seeing more people saved. Well, tell us a little bit about you, the ministry that you have, and what you're doing.
Well, our ministry is called Determined Ministries. That comes from my life verse, which is 1 Corinthians chapter 2 and verse 2, when Paul said, "For I determined not to know anything among you save Jesus Christ and Him crucified." We held our first meeting. Let's go back further. I was called to preach at a conference when I was 13, went to Bible college in Chattanooga when I was 17, and then backslid on the Lord while I was there. I was just telling Pastor a few moments ago, not because of them, but because of me, and was out of the will of the Lord. Although I was in church Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night, I was backslidden for 10 years, and then got right with the Lord in October of 1992, and then in January of 1994, quit my job and moved down to a town called Cowpens, South Carolina, where I went to Ambassador Baptist College in Shelby. And I graduated from there in 1996, but beginning in 1995, actually June the 9th through the 12th, was our first revival meeting that we count. I'd done some camps before that, but that was at Kashmir Baptist Church in Ballard, West Virginia. And so we actually have our 30th anniversary in full-time vocational evangelism coming up here in just a little less than 3 months now.
That's something. Yes, wow, that's a long time.
Yes, sir. And we've been we've preached in, I think, 46 states, 45 or 46. I haven't looked at it recently, but 17 foreign countries, and the Lord has certainly opened doors for us to do that.
So what has given you this interest in going to the mission field?
Well, when we first started in evangelism, after I graduated from Bible college, and now we've moved to West Virginia, and that's where we set up our first evangelistic home, if you will. Now we reside in King, North Carolina, and that's where our ministry is out of. But a friend of ours, John and Brenda Gossett, their family, were the first BIMI missionaries to Trinidad, I think ever. And they were from Ripley, West Virginia, which was 22 miles north of our home there in Sissonville, West Virginia. And he called me up and asked me to come and preach. They call them crusades. They don't call them revival meetings. A crusade in Trinidad, and then a week of teen camp. And so we actually set up the Fundamental Baptist Camp in Trinidad in 1998, and it's still going strong today. Last year, I think they had 125 Trinidadian teens that went to the camp. But the first crusade we set up was under a tent, and I believe we saw in that tent that week, I believe we saw somewhere north of 60 people come to know Christ as their Savior.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
You know, it's an interesting story about Brother Gossett. I was speaking in Puerto Rico. They were having a field conference. I'm at the airport in San Jose, and I see this family. The mother's in a long dress, the kids, you know, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 kids or however many they had. And I said, you know, that looks like a Christian family. And we weren't in San Jose, we were or San Juan. We were going to the South Shore.
Right.
There's a camp down there, and I couldn't believe it. Here I'm waiting. So I started talking to them, and they were on their way to the mission field, and that's how I first met them.
Well, you met them at an amazing time, because Trinidad actually did not let missionaries from BIMI or any of the other organizations that we would be real familiar with into the country at that time, because we're talking back in 1997, if I'm not mistaken. And Brother Gossett was coming in under the auspices of a local church, Trinity Baptist Church in La Jarqueta Arima in Trinidad. And he was coming in to be an assistant under the pastor there for 3 years. And then his second term, they were going to plant a church, and the church would sponsor them. So Brother Gossett leaves, and again, this is before cell phones and all the ways we can communicate. He left and was going straight from that field conference to Trinidad and was going to land there on Wednesday. What he didn't know was Sunday night, the pastor there confessed publicly some open sin and resigned the church. So when Brother Gossett got off the plane at the end of that field conference, they told him that they had voted him in as the pastor.
Oh, goodness.
So he, as an American missionary, was now the pastor of an indigenous Trinidadian church and was able to sponsor 30 missionaries over the course of his years there. He didn't sponsor. That's how many he was allowed to sponsor. He didn't end up sponsoring that many, but there were at one point maybe 10 missionaries down there, Americans, and the country had only had missionaries from one mission board before that, and it was a little different board. But it actually really helped Trinidad, and there are still churches going strong from those missionaries that Brother Gossett and his wife and their church at Trinity were able to sponsor.
I'll tell you, I remember when I saw them, found out who they were, I said, boy, I hope they make it. They were young, these little kids, and I don't know where they're from, but I got the idea, West Virginia.
They're from Ripley, West Virginia. Yeah. Brother Gossett used to be a deputy sheriff in Jackson County.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, and to see how God used them, that's an amazing thing.
Yes, sir.
So you've been all over the world, technically.
Yes.
I mean, many places, but the Far East in particular.
Far East, yes, sir. We've been to China and Japan and the Philippines over there, and then a lot of places in Europe. And then down in the Caribbean, the Bahamas and Jamaica and Trinidad. But yes, our trips to Japan started in 2006. And now basically we're on basically every other year we go there and preach revivals in the military works. But I've preached in several Japanese works down there as well, over there as well.
Okay, so how do you fund these trips? I mean, that's got to be expensive, and you don't want to take money from the missionary from their budget.
We never have asked a missionary to help us go on the field, and we don't actively raise support. Now I think we have 6 churches after 30 years that support us. And I usually tell churches that ask us about support, I typically have with me prayer cards from missionaries that need support. And I would say, if you've got extra support, this is someone who needs it more than I do. Now, a few of them have argued with me and went ahead and supported us anyway. But we're not going to fight them about it. But we use our resource table. My brother and I have written 2 children's books. My wife's got a cookbook. We've got USBs and even some CDs still, and we use the proceeds from that to help offset that. But we are constantly saving for our trips to Japan. This year, at the end of this year, we'll be in Germany, we'll be in Spangdahlem, we'll be in Ansbach, and we'll be in a town called Kaiserslautern, which is not far from Landstuhl for anybody who's familiar with the military over there. And Spangdahlem's not far from Ramstein, so I'm sure you've got some people that are listening to this and knowing they had been stationed there in the Air Force or the Army. But we'll be there this year. And next year we're back in Trinidad for a month, and then back in Japan. And that'll be about 7 weeks this time, because the 6 churches we were in, there's another one that's been planted by a dear friend of ours, Brother Novato, in Atsugi, Japan, which I believe is a naval base. And so we'll be adding that to our churches we'll be going to.
So what you get off your book table is not enough, so you just subsidize it out of what income you get.
Yes, sir.
From speaking at churches.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yes, sir. And the Lord's blessed, and we love going over there. And if there wasn't if there weren't a book table, and I would actually say I think we'd go into debt just to go over there, because it's such an honor to preach, especially to me in those military works. You have people in, I believe Germany's a 2-year accompanied tour. Japan's a 3-year accompanied tour, which means you can take your spouse and your children with you. Korea is not accompanied, although some people still are able to get by. Last I heard, they were thinking about changing that. But those people are away from everything, and a lot of times what you'll find is people who are almost a fringe church member in the States, they'll go one of two ways. They'll either quit going altogether, or they will get so involved in the church, and they grow so much because all of their fellowship is at the church. Activities, their friends, they form this almost a coalition of families raising their kids together, and they just become, so many of them just become sponges to the Word of God. And for instance, Maranatha in Okinawa, I think the number is astounding, and I don't want to give the wrong number. I'm certain it's over 50 people that have come through that church are in full-time Christian ministry right now. And it may be significantly more than that.
Probably.
Yeah.
It's amazing work.
Yes, sir.
You know, Bob Elsey, have you heard that name before? He was there during the Vietnam conflict.
Oh, okay. Yes, sir.
Graduate at Tennessee Temple. And he helped us when we started a Bible Institute. He was here.
Yes, sir.
So he had a great influence on that work. But
yes, sir.
So there, you know, I'm starting to travel more myself and going around, but it's really important to me. I don't want to just go so I have a place to preach.
Right.
I want to make a difference. I want to help. So do you feel like, I mean, obviously you feel like you're helping.
Yes, sir.
What do you think you're accomplishing by going to these places and holding these meetings?
Just overseas or all over the States as well?
Overseas in particular.
Okay. Overseas, of course, you're helping, you're doing what Ephesians chapter 4 says the evangelist is supposed to do. And he gave some apostles and some prophets and some evangelists and some pastors and teachers for the perfecting of the saints and the work of the ministry and the edifying of the body of Christ. And so we're preaching revivals in those churches. And again, those are American military churches. So although there are Japanese in every service, and the churches use a translator. I'm not preaching with an interpreter. With an interpreter, you preach a sentence or two and then let them interpret. With a translator, you just keep going, and the person in the other room is speaking into a microphone, and they're listening over their headphones in Japanese. So you're preaching to help them get stronger in the Lord. Of course, you're preaching evangelistically, especially on the Sunday, like you would in the States. And if you have a big push, like if you're going to preach on prophecy or something like that sometime during the week, you'll have lost people that'll come out. And then you want to strongly hit evangelistic preaching. But preaching revival to God's people is what we're typically doing over there. Now in Trinidad, over the years, we've watched people come from spiritual Baptist background, which has nothing to do with Baptist. It's a cult, and watch people come out of that, get saved, and now some of those are actually pastoring churches in Trinidad. So it's just amazing. Of course, we've been going there again since 1998. I think I've been to Trinidad 22 times. Oh. And due to attrition, health issues, sin in one case, I don't know that there is... there may be one American missionary still there. So now I'm going and preaching in all national churches there. And it's just amazing.
Yeah. I would think also, just knowing our daughter in Japan, that there are a lot of missionaries just need some fellowship, encouragement, and particularly the missionary's wife.
Yes, sir. And that's a problem that we have. And I would say especially in Japan, because like where your son and daughter are, they're hours away from anybody because, you know, you have fellowship with the Japanese in your church. But as an American, you're going to want fellowship with Americans. So, you know, they take advantage of field conferences and things like that. But I know over the years of people that have gone over there and raised their support and everything, got to Japan and weren't there a year before the wife said, I can't do it. Because as a international person coming in, it's oftentimes very expensive to get a driver's license, and so the husband includes that in what we call his work fund, so he can have a license, so he can pastor the church. But then they can't afford for the wife to get a license, and so she literally ends up sitting in a house by herself, all day long. And it's better now with the way we can communicate, again, with FaceTime and Facebook Messenger and Zoom calls and things like that. But there's still a great deal of loneliness. And if you're out there and you have any missionaries that you're supporting, don't just pray for the pastor and the work. Pray for that wife. She really needs it. And they end up just pouring themselves into their children, which is it's what they should do as a mother anyway, but they still have to crave some kind of adult physical conversation because they're just learning Japanese. So they can't have in-depth, friendly conversations with Japanese. And like where your daughter and son-in-law are, they're an hour and 40-minute train ride. I think Paul can drive it an hour and 25. I'm not sure he's driving legally by making it an hour and 25. But they get to go down and see some other missionaries every now and then. But like the last time we were there, they all came out. They drove through where they left. When they left, they were in 4 inches of snow to drive down to Misawa to be with us and with the pastor there. So they need your prayer, because we think about the ministry, we think about their burden for the Japanese, but we don't think about the isolation that's there as well.
I think you have to include the children in the problem as well.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes in the ministry, your children say, well, I don't have any friends.
Right.
That's in America, because they're unique and they're different. But when you can't even communicate, and if they're homeschooled, they don't go to Japanese school, then what friends do they have?
Right.
And if they don't learn the language, even a church, if they have people, most of the churches are very, very small.
And they don't speak the same language anyway, so you still have the same communication problem. I remember one time we were traveling. We travel, of course, every week, and we're in Japan. And my daughter Charity, if she's going to listen to this, she's going to be so mad at me for telling this story. We're actually in Okinawa, and there was a young fella there, and Charity was a teenager, and he kind of was sweet on her. She kind of was sweet on him, but we're leaving. We're only there for 6 days, and then we're gone. And she had an absolute meltdown, and so was crying. She said, "I just want to be normal," she said. And then she said this, I don't know where this came from, because she was homeschooled her whole life. She said, "I just want to ride a bus," which why she would come up with that as making her normal, it was. She got over it, but that's just with, we were there 5 weeks or something that time, and she felt like that. So the children growing up there is that isolation,
Plus, they come back to the States. They've not been Americanized in the same way, and so they don't fit in here either. They don't fit in anywhere.
They look a little odd. And because they haven't had any fellowship and conversations at church, when they come to church, sometimes they draw into their little shell, and then everybody thinks that they're shy. They're not really shy. They just haven't had any opportunity to fellowship in 3 or 4 years sometimes. So I would just caution, pray for them and understand them when they come. They really want to be your friend.
Yeah. Well, we're very conscious of that in our Bible college. We have several missionary kids that come, and being small, I think it helps that they get to know everybody, and people are very conscious and kind to.
Yes, sir.
But you do have to be understanding, because they're just some basic things that they don't fit in.
Well, see, that's an issue that we're facing too, because the expansion of the internet has made going to Bible college just Bible college. There's no going to anymore. They're trying to do everything online, and they don't get the advantages that you get, especially in a smaller Bible college. Like the college I went to, their bylaws actually state that they'll never be over a certain size. So to get close to that size, they're going to have to cut down, right? But so many people want to do it online, and I would liken it to when you go to a Bible college, you're preparing for warfare against the world, the flesh, and the devil. in the United States of America, to use our great country as an example, you don't go to basic training online. They want you there where they can train you.
Good point.
And
that interaction.
Yes, sir. The interaction.
Struggle.
Yes, sir. And having people going through the same thing that you're going through at the same time, that is just invaluable. And so I'm a strong proponent for getting up, packing up, and going to Bible college.
You know, as an evangelist, you could just send out media files to people and say, here's the revival meeting.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, sir.
But it doesn't work that way.
No, sir. And we learned that during COVID. I mean, because you're sitting at home and you're watching your pastor preach and you're listening to somebody sing a special, but very few people, and I don't know of any, I just said very few in case there's somebody out there, I don't know of anybody that I ever talked to that fell on their face in their living room during the invitation on an online church service.
Yeah.
And you're going to get the knowledge. You're not going to get the atmosphere.
So important. So important. Yeah. Well, Brother Harper's been with us this week for a missions conference, and it's been great messages and great help people, and we're enjoying it. We're having a good time, and some good missionaries here and getting to know them better, and it's been a blessing. So we appreciate you coming. So if anybody listening wants to have you come in, again, what's your website?
DeterminedMinistries.org, and you can email me from there. You can call me, of course. My home address is on there, along with my itinerary, which doesn't make a lot of sense, because anybody who looks at my itinerary knows that my house is empty for 9 weeks. Yeah. So we have an alarm system, though, so don't get any ideas. But still, but yes, and we're scheduling now. We still have a few weeks open in 2026, but we're working more toward 2027 now.
Good. Get on the ball if you want them to come.
Yes, sir. And thank you for having us. We've had a wonderful time here this week.
Praise the Lord. And it's good to have your wife as well.
Yes, sir.
That's been a blessing. Well, God bless you. Thanks for listening today.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, consider sharing it with a friend. You can also follow at Dr. Townsley on Twitter or on Facebook at Jim Townsley.